Hello, and welcome back for more Mechyard survival. In the last episode, we built ourselves another scrap coma, which you can see in the background. They're both sat there recharging, and they've been repaired. We also built this welder arm repair system that works pretty well. It's got apparently 99% coverage, so I can do most of the mech, and there's just like a few last things that we have to weld up ourselves, but it mostly works pretty well. It resets. It's got some spotlights up there for a bit of lighting, and then we've got the autocannon version over here with his own little bay. So the next things on the list that I want to do is, having done a little bit of combat, I have annoyed Assert a little bit now. And off camera, there has been one or two occasions where they have sent drones to my base. So, one of the first things I'd like to do is upgrade the base defences a little bit. And for now, just because I thought they looked quite nice, I've placed some interior turrets on little pedestals knocking around here outside the repair stations. So the first thing I'm going to do is get those welded up and fill them with some ammunition, and then we'll have a little bit of temporary defences. I would like to completely rebuild these towers into something more elaborate, but that is a plan for later on. So the first thing I am going to do is build all of this stuff. Right, so that's our defence turret welded up. That should provide us with a little bit of defence to the base if any other drones decide to come knocking. We are going to expand on the base defences in the very near future, but that should help out for now. Although I'm not going to enjoy having to manually reload them, but again, we can fix that later on. So the next thing on the list of stuff I wanted to do was build myself some more practical drones, particularly one for drilling and ore collection, because I haven't done much ore collection on camera at the moment, because it has mostly been me going out in the crawler and hand mining for half an hour at a time, which is incredibly boring to do and even more boring to watch. So I thought I would build myself a construction platform where I can start building all of my mechs from. And I've already set up a piston platform type thing so that I can build large things up there, attach them to a merge block, build it off that, and then when the time comes I can lower it down and detach the merge block. And I've also built it with a double piston kind of setup in the case of smaller mechs. The idea I've got is I can build this platform out of it in all directions and basically do the same thing, have a smaller mech, lower it onto a lower platform, potentially build a ramp to lower them off, but yeah. That's the idea, anyway. So the next thing to do is to get all of this welded up. Well, now that all that's been welded up, it's probably time to start thinking about this mining mech drone thing that I would like to build. And to start with, I'll just place a few blocks. Right, so this is what I've got so far. Is a big, it's going to be a big six-legged multi-head thing. It's going to be another skimmer. Just because if I wanted to go and get any ore with any kind of haste, it's going to have to be a skimmer. Walkers are notoriously slow. So I'm going to make a big skimmer. I'm going to give it 6 legs for extra support. It's got a couple of medium cargo containers stashed under there. There's plenty of space to potentially add another one in the back. But the key thing I want to do with this drone is I want this to just be the transport section of the drone. What I want is for it to actually be a 2-in-1 kind of deal, where this base unit that I'll be able to drive around or potentially operate via remote will be the bit that actually carries all of the ore back to base. What I want to build is a secondary unit that attaches to it, a little flying drone that actually does the mining, so that can detach out the back, fly into a patch of dirt, dig down, mine until it's full, float back up, reattach onto the drone, onto the transport unit, and then transfer its ore over, and then potentially repeat the cycle, and then we can drive the whole thing back, and then we'll need to figure out a way to connect it up. Right, so the next thing that we need to do is to design some legs. 3 kilometers, that's pretty close. Nah, it's going away, it's fine. So we need to design some legs, really. Do something along the lines of that. So we'll get all of that welded up, see what that looks like, build the rest of the legs, and we'll be back in a few minutes. Right, so that's what the leg is theoretically going to look like. We'll give it a test at some point, see how well it works, but for now I'm going to build another bunch of these, and we will be back in a few more minutes. Okay, well, that's a bunch of legs built. We've now got 6 functioning legs, but while building I did realise that he was still quite far off the ground even when fully retracted, so I've built this platform up another half a block, which meant I had to move the spotlights as well, because by the time I'd finished doing all of his legs, his feet were touching where the spotlights were sat. So I've moved them. They've now got nice little spotlight towers. And because I raised the whole platform up half a block, I had to move the button, which I've now moved over here and built a little platform for it, and built ourselves a sci-fi button panel. So we now have a control to raise the platform up and down. We have a control to deactivate the merge block and detach the grid and reactivate it. And we have a button or the floodlights. And I've also started building some of the AI and remote controls in there. There's a few gyros. I've not programmed anything yet, but we've got the beginnings of it there. We've got forward and reverse thrusters. I still need to figure out where I'm going to put the side thrust. I might actually tuck all of that underneath where it's out of the way. I might even change that to put a conveyor connector there. Yeah. Cool. Right, so I'm going to do a bit more building and a bit more thinking, and we will come back again in a few minutes. Okay, well, we've made a few more adjustments, because the way I had it set up before, his legs were a little too wide, not quite long enough, and I have incorporated the new modular cargo containers because I completely forgot about them, to be honest. So I've redesigned the legs a little bit, moved everything round, and now we have a bit more storage, and that's about it. But we should be in a good place to cut him down. In fact, we don't need to cut him down, we can just unmerge him and see how well he's working. So we'll head over here to the bottom, we'll bring the platform down, hopefully it still fits, just about. Ah, that's plenty of room. And then we can unmerge him. Cool, there we go. We can move around, we can turn. And I've set some controllers up on the legs. Well, a controller, so that the legs move about when you push forward. There we go, let's lock back down again. Cool, so we can carry on doing some more design work. Right, well, that's a rough idea for the drone. So the next stage will be to get it all welded up, and then we can see how well it works and see if we can actually get it to dock with the tank section. So, on to the welding. so that's all welded up. We can give it a try and see if this thing can fly around or not. See how well it works. Okay, well, he seems to work fairly well. Forward, backward, left and right. We might have to do some weird subgrid hinge nonsense with these tiny drills. Okay, well, we now have a working prototype-ish sort of thing. Not tested anything really yet, and there's still a lot of armor plating and greebling and a few controls that need doing. But for the moment, we have our base transport unit. I've added a few more wheels to the feet to give it a bit more support and a little bit more protection from the ground. But the main thing is, we have now armored up this drone unit. Currently, it can detach. It can fly up. It can fly away. And we now have a series of drill arms that come out of the bottom and do all this kind of business. Again, I haven't tested it yet, but it looks cool. And then that can all fold away. And I have set up some AI controls, or the beginnings of the AI controls, so that it can return back to the transport unit. And there you go. And it looks like a strange spider turtle kind of thing now. I did also stick some solar panels on this unit, so it's got a bit of charge. I'll probably move them, but that was just a rough idea for now. The next biggest issue, though, is battery power. I have built quite a bit of stuff now, and our one and only base battery is struggling. It's struggling really badly. It's not getting any input because all the batteries over there are draining it from me testing the drone, and everything else is draining it. So before we go any further, we're probably going to need to build some more power, because we need to think about how and where I want to build a solar farm. I'm thinking of building it in this space here. Right, well, something like that will hopefully work. So we'll get this welded up, and we'll see what it looks like, and we'll see how well it works. And that is that all welded up. Right, the next thing we're going to need then is a way to control it. And we're going to need a turret controller, but I don't fancy wasting lots of resources building massive large grid turret controllers when I can get away with small grid. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to upgrade the tower at the back. I want to add another floor to it and have like a little control room on an upper level. So we'll have a look at that. I'll see what we can do over here. Okie dokie. That will be the new section of our control tower. I've finally got around to adding an antenna to the roof, so we can actually see the base without having to use GPS signals now. And I'm just going to have that spin slowly for a little bit of a nice visual effect. So let's have a look inside. Built ourselves a weapon rack. Got some windows so we can see out, see what's going on. I put a programmable block in the corner just because it looks nice. Might do something else with this corner later on. And we've also got a bunch of buttons now for things that we might need in the future. We've got a control seat that is not going to need to control any of this business. So we have an actual control seat for the base. We've got a little bit of a view of some of it. I intend to build more stuff over there. And up here we have a little bit of space to start building our computer. So first thing we're going to need is a couple of custom turret controllers. Right, so we've got that solar panel set up, and after doing a little bit of testing I realised that the one tower wasn't really going to be enough. So I built a couple more, and that still wasn't enough, so I built a few more wind turbines as well. And now we have an ample supply of power, and it took me a lot of screwing around to get all the resources for it. But I've also built a little sort of power substation thing with a load of batteries that are currently charging up. And now that we have our power issues sorted out, we can go back to working on the mining drone. Okay, well I've done a fair bit more design work on the mining mech. I have now dubbed it the Red Knee, as in the tarantula, because it reminds me of that. The top unit on it is now called the Jellyfish, because it reminds me of that too. And after a lot of messing around, I have sorted out what appears to be a pretty effective semi-automatic mining system. And I also built a docking bay as well, because it needed somewhere to dump all its cargo while I was doing its testing. And I've also started the beginnings of a refinery and some ore storage. The storage container is currently piped up, and we've got lots of resources now from all of the testing I've done, so we shouldn't go short of them. But the next big thing is to build the refinery and get that sorted out. But for now, we'll do a little demo of the Red Knee, and I'll show you all how it's working so far. And unfortunately, because of the huge subgrid on the back, I can't really get a decent third-person view, so we are kind of restricted to first person, or I've set up the mining unit with a camera turret on the top, so we've got a slightly better view. And it helps us look for ore and things too. And there you go, the new Red Knee, completely over-engineered mining mech. We'll go give it a quick test, and I'll show you all how it works. Now, how the drill works is unlocking the connector triggers the first flight recorder, which moves the drone into a starting position. When it gets there, it triggers the next flight recorder, which has a series of waypoints that drop the drone down in small increments of about 1 meter. At each of the waypoints, a pair of timers trigger that reduce and increase the movement block's speed limit, effectively halting the drone in place for a few seconds. There's also a sensor on the drone that detects voxels, which reduces and increases the timer delay. This basically makes the drone skip through its waypoints quicker when it can't detect the floor. It has an ejector system to dump out stone when we don't want it, and it also has an event controller that makes the drone automatically return when the cargo container is full. But because of the ejector system, if its cargo empties before it can dock, it will just restart the drilling cycle again. And it also has another event controller which makes the drone return if its battery runs low. So it'll pretty much repeat this pattern until it's either full or running out of power. I've also set it up with some controls to pause and restart the drilling cycle in case we want to reposition ourselves, and then the drone will just hover in place in front of us until we reactivate the system again. And it's also got some displays on the front of the mech so that we can see what we're doing. So we can see there that the jellyfish is currently active. If I hit that button, we will pause the jellyfish and it'll float up in front of us. And there's also a remote control system for its ejectors, so we can turn them on and off by remote. And when the drone gets full, it will disengage its drilling cycle and engage its docking sequence. And when the drone docks up with the main unit again, there is a series of conveyor sorters that will transfer all of the cargo from the drone into the main mech. And in the event that we pick up all sorts of unwanted things like stone, the red knee itself has an ejector system tucked away underneath to get rid of all that stuff as well. And I've also set the red knee up with a few defences, because the last thing we want is this thing getting shot to pieces when it's out drilling. So it has a weapon control system with a little alarm sound to let us know that it's active. Then we've got some guns, some Gatlings at the front, and at the back we have an autocannon tail. So we should be pretty well defended. And I've also set up a couple of external controls for the drills as well, and for the weapons too, and a few other bits and pieces. So if we want, we can activate it from out here. And we can recall it again. So now that we've got all of those resources, it's probably time to head back to base. Okay, well now that we have a pretty decent way of mining, we are really going to need to think about improving our refinery. Well, I've got the basics of a refinery set up. I've already put some sorters in place to manage our resources for us. And we've built some cargo storage for the base. So now we just need to make a way of getting the cargo to come back this way to the refinery. And with that, we have a working refinery. That's refining all of our ore. and there is a series of sorters in the floor. That one directs fuel and ammunition and stuff back to the mining vehicle. That one pulls the ore out of the mining vehicle and sends it to storage. And then there's another one tucked just under there that pulls ingots back out and sends them to our factory. And now that we have a proper refinery, we probably don't need this little basic one anymore. So we'll get rid of this. And then we can just have our cargo access there. A little door over the front of it as well. Fantastic. So that's our cargo access for now. For all the storage for our ingots. And that's about it for this episode. We've sorted out our resource collection issues. We can now harvest tons of ore at a time. We've got a new refinery that can process it all for us, and we've got a basic sorter system to organise it all for us. So next time, I think we will work on upgrading the base defences to something a little bit more elaborate and a little bit more effective. So thanks for watching, and goodbye for now.